I really like when a pizza, like you bite into it and it almost like your teeth like go through and it melts away. Like, there are days where I've seen people have to do it with my pizza where it's like you see them like bite and have to like rip a little bit. And I'm like, I overmixed or I overbulked or I need to change up the flours. Or like as soon as I see that, I'm like, that's not the dough that I wanted today, you know? For me, the answer is that a lot of so pizza dough recipes, typically, it mostly is on the fermentation side. It should really be getting like a pretty short bulk fermentation and a longer proof. And I think a lot of people give it a pretty long bulk fermentation, especially with commercial yeasted doughs, like almost like let it double and then kind of punch it down and in much more of like the traditional bread recipe way, and then shape it and like divide and shape and proof. It's not that it's like, that's not wrong. But to me, like what that does is there's more time to develop strength and gluten during that bulk fermentation. And especially if you add in sourdough, the acidity is going to also help to create stronger gluten. You get more of a rise, you get like better oven spring, which is great. And like we all like to see that. But with that comes like a little bit toothier, chewier texture.
The following podcast is a Pie to Pie production.
Every slice tells a story.
This episode is brought to you by Maestro Sausage. Look out, Northern California. Sausage just got a whole lot better because Maestro's Italian sausage is now available through Buy Right. Don't waste time. Run, don't walk to Buy Right to get your hands on some Italian sausage made by Maestro. Slice is building tools now to support the independent pizzeria, and not just Slice users, but the independent pizzeria industry as a whole. Like us, they are telling the stories of the independent pizza shop owners and ultimately creating tools that help the small guy compete with the big chains. This business can be lonely, but with Slice, you can be in business for yourself, not by yourself. Flat iron pepper. When you pop these peppers, you are gonna know. You can smell it, you can feel it, you can taste it. They are liberating pizzerias from low quality pepper flakes. Stop finishing your pizza with crap. Head to flatironpepper.com and join the pepper flake revolution. Yeah, a lot of transactions.
Yeah, a lot more transactions.
What kind of oven are we talking underneath that hood?
Oven?
Yeah.
Moretti. I'm going with the Moretti
Okay.
gas, actually, not the electric. Not necessarily because that's what I want to do, but it's because it's what I have to do. PG&E upgrades take like a year, as you probably know. And the panel here, this building is from 1892.
It feels that. It's got that vibe in it.
Yeah, which I did, admittedly, I wanted to an extent, but I'm also like, I go back and forth because new builds are just so much more convenient, but I just feel like they don't have the same sort of character. Yeah. And I love that San Francisco has so many of these protected old buildings that feel like there's a little bit more charm, but then you just inherit like crumbling plumbing and
the problems.
You know, a electrical panel with 175 amps.
That's all you got.
That's all we got.
Yeah, you would need like another 200 amps.
Easy,
for the oven.
Especially like it's also single phase, so we have to do like rotary phase converter for the mixer.
Yeah.
Just pulls a lot of amps. Yeah, you know, it's a lot. So we're going gas.
Okay.
Gas is the way.
Gas is the way. I mean, for everyone I've talked to, it's like, yeah, they're trying to get rid of gas here, man.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen in the immediate future. And to be honest, I'm also, we'll see about, everyone says this and then it doesn't happen, but I'm also down to get open, start the process of trying to get the electrical upgrade and just see if we can get it done over time, and then maybe switch out, sell the oven, switch it out for Pizza Master or something. But we'll see. We'll see if that actually happens.
Why wouldn't you get a Moretti electric?
I like them both. Honestly, I think honestly, I'd probably end up going with whatever I could get a better price on.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Fair enough.
And what I could fit in the space, like I'm only going to have 2 decks, which I think will be okay to start, but I think there could be a time where we need 3 at least, you know? I don't think we can go bigger than 3, but it'd be nice to get a 3rd deck. So whatever the configuration from what I'm like more familiar with configurations on Pizza Masters. I know Moretti makes so many different models that they'll probably have one that would fit, but I know I could get like a 733 in there and it would work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What else are you doing besides pizza?
We're going to do, I mean, there's definitely going to be a bread component. Still working on what that looks like just because bread is obviously very labor intensive, and also the skill level on bread in terms of like having someone that I don't want to have to do it all myself every day. You know
don't
what I
want
mean?
to be here at 2, 3 in the morning.
Exactly.
Just
Not
like mixing.
Not every day. You know?
Yeah.
So, but fortunately, I don't know. People are reaching out all the time about excited for us to open, and some people who have bread experience. So I think if I could get someone who I could trust to train and work on that, I think we could expand what we do with bread a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't know. I had too many bread jobs in the past where I would work 14, 15 hours, 7 days a week. And
That's the baker's way.
Yeah, exactly.
You got the baker's pride.
Too much of it, honestly.
You have the baker's pride.
Yeah. It was bad for multiple other aspects of my life, I would say.
I can only imagine.
So
yeah,
I think I would rather not go down that rabbit hole again if I can avoid it. Even though
sounds super healthy.
Right. Yeah. It was
like
it was
good
great.
mentally and physically for you.
Exactly. Both were really in peak
You
shape
were
at that
killing
time.
it, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, you're fucking killing it, bro.
Yeah, that's what it felt. That's what I told myself.
Yeah, and everyone was probably
day.
telling you, dude, you were fucking killing it, dude. And you're like, I think I'm killing myself.
Right. That was actually where it got to that point basically.
Yeah.
But so we'll see. Definitely bread. And when I was in New York just now, I mean, it's like feels like a trend that everyone's kind of doing, where it's like you do the pizza at night and then you do bagels in the morning type of thing.
You gonna do that?
Place. I wasn't going to, even though a ton of people have said I should and asked me to. I used to make bagels in New York, but then when I was just there and I did go to Apollo, and honestly, I went in almost like it's so hyped up. Like, is it really? Am I gonna like it? And I loved it. I thought it was great. And there was a part of me that was like, I want to do. I don't feel like anyone's really doing that style of bagel here right now. There's some good new bagels in San Francisco, but nothing that's quite the sort of Apollo Courage vein, you know?
So like a Montreal-esque bagel?
Yeah, but even that's like, I think traditionally Montreal's like, it's going to be in the wood oven and it's the bigger hole. It's like
bigger hole,
wide open hole. Theirs didn't necessarily come across to me as super Montreal style. It was more that they're a little bit wetter, like really proofed to the point where you get like an actually open crumb, which for a bagel is just not how they're traditionally made,
it's just fucking dense.
Yeah. And I love a dense bagel. Like, don't get me wrong, but
I like the Airy bagel.
It's nice. They're both good.
It's like, what the fuck?
They're both good.
What is this?
Yeah. And I feel like when I first tried that style of bagel, I was like, this isn't a bagel. It's just like a roll with a hole in it.
Yeah, it's like a baguette roll. Yeah,
right.
With cream cheese on it.
And now I've my mind has changed.
Yes.
I'm open to it.
Don't you love that? A little change of mind?
Yeah.
You used to be like, that shit's whack, dude.
Right. That was probably my first take. But I've changed.
That's literally me. Like, I'll wake up and somebody will say, send me something like, dude, that's the stupidest thing. And then I'll go to bed and be like, how do I do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that was the full circle for me on this. And so now there's a part of me that wants to do it, And there's nowhere, I feel like in this neighborhood, there's a lot of like daytime places, but not really good places to get a bagel or like a breakfast sandwich type of thing. And I don't know, I miss bacon, egg, and cheeses all the time here. So if I could just make that a part of my life on a regular basis, that'd be nice.
My wife's from New Jersey, and she's always just thought it was real fucking weird that it was like not the easiest thing to find, like a great bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich.
Yeah. And I will say, I think there's something about California that's a little different than the East Coast, where like when we opened the Tartine in Santa Monica, the first bacon, egg, and cheese I did there was meant to be like really simple. Like it was like bacon, eggs, cheese on the sweet potato bun that we made. And it was cheaper. It was like, whatever. I was like $7 or $8, which is for New York is expensive, but for California is kind of cheap,
dude. Yeah.
And I liked it that way. And then we started getting all this feedback that was kind of like, can we get some more stuff on it? And I was like, we can, but then I have to charge more. And it's kind of nice just being like this really simple, easy thing. But we got enough of that feedback that I caved and we changed it.
Here's avocado and arugula.
Right. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Like that's basically what it was. And like a little like mayo,
And
like an aioli.
You can't call it mayo.
Right.
Not in LA.
Which is outrageous to me. Like
Yeah.
I will call it mayo.
Fuck yeah.
I'll call it flavored, like it's garlic mayo. It's this mayo, that mayo. It's like I refuse really to say
No,
aioli.
it's aioli, baby.
People
People don't
out
even
here,
know what the
they
fuck
won't eat
aioli
mayo.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
It's weird. It's a
Well,
weird
have
thing.
you been to Bell's?
Yeah.
Bell's Bagels?
Yeah, I always liked Bell's a lot.
Yeah, Bell's is really good. They do. It's just classic every time, and
Right.
it's consistent. And
Totally.
they did that new build out, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I haven't been back since they opened the real.
Have you been to Bub's? Bub and Grandma's?
Yeah. I mean, Andy was super. When I first moved to LA, he was very gracious and like kind of showed me around LA a little bit and kind of got me set up. But I had a lot of their bread. They only opened the cafe like right before the actual space right before I left. And I went and I picked up some stuff there and everything was great, but they were always so busy that I never really went and ate there, which I feel bad about. But every time I would drive by, I was like, this line's crazy right now.
I live like down the street. I'm like there every weekend.
Yeah,
My
great.
son just like is addicted to the donuts.
Yeah, great. I mean, I would be too if I lived down the block.
Who makes better bread, Bub and Grandma's or Tartine?
Hard hitting question.
Yeah, well, I'm coming for like the big dogs, you know.
Yeah.
And you're the man to ask.
I mean, this is tough though. I know the answer. I would say this is my hot take.
It's your take, man.
I don't know how this is gonna ruffle some feathers.
It's
probably,
your opinion, baby.
But I think in LA, Bub's is better. I think the bread programs for Tartine are not quite the same in LA and San Francisco, and I think the quality up here is better than the quality down there.
Yeah.
So I still think in San Francisco, Tartine
Trumps.
is still making amazing bread on a regular basis. And not that it's not very good down there, but I think I like what Andy does there.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a little bit different.
It's a bit of a meta question, you know, because Andy's like a tinkerer and he came up
Right.
there, and Tartine was probably part of that journey.
Oh, I'm
and,
sure.
You know,
I think he said once that he started with
that recipe.
like the original Tartine bread
Yeah.
book, as would
everyone
be
does.
Almost
literally
everyone
like
who
that's
makes
how the
sourdough.
the hot tongue dough recipe
Right.
to this day started with like that country loaf recipe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's to Chad's credit and Tartine in general's credit, Liz as well. But like it's like really hard to see where like American bread would be without that book coming out. You know what I mean?
I mean, what about like, because Nancy Silverton had that book too.
Totally.
And
And Jim Leahy, obviously, like No Need is huge.
Yes, that's a crazy ass recipe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I think, actually probably got more people in a way. That's a much more approachable recipe for someone
Exactly.
who's making bread at home, you know? So I think if anything, that probably affected more people up until maybe the pandemic, and then everyone wanted to make sourdough bread at home.
Yeah.
And the irony of that was, for us at least, we saw this really interesting change where it was like everyone was complaining about how expensive our bread was up until the pandemic. And then I think people started trying to do it at home more and realized it was like this 3-day process, really hard, not coming out as well. And it was kind of like, you know what, I'll just pay $13-14 for a country loaf. Like,
It's great. I wish there was like more perspective like that,
Yeah.
just in every like facet
Totally.
of industry, where it's like,
Yeah.
fucking $32 for a pizza. I could
Right.
make this shit. And it's like, why don't
Yeah.
you come over for 3 days?
Yeah,
Come over
totally.
for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you'd understand, but it's like, the thing was kind of sad thinking
Right.
about COVID was just how many sourdough starters probably just died.
A massacre.
Just a fucking
Yeah.
murder
Yeah.
session. There
Yeah.
was definitely
I mean, if
more
you think of
sourdough starter deaths than there were COVID
Oh
deaths.
yeah, I mean, especially if you think about it on a like biology, like
Yes.
the actual
Millions and
little
trillions.
bacteria
Oh
and
my
yeast
God.
dying. I mean, it was truly
it's
like
like
just a devastating massacre
just-
that like nothing the world's ever seen before.
It is,
really.
and that was really the problem with
yeah.
COVID.
Yeah, right.
Was
yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, just a sad rise and fall of so many.
Wow, that's
so
also
many
like a little bread term, little rise and fall.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You gotta throw the unnecessary bread puns in
I
there, yeah.
love it. Did you move down to LA to work at Tartine?
It wasn't directly because of Tartine, and I moved from New York, but
Or from New York to LA.
yeah, exactly. It wasn't specifically for Tartine. When I got there, I was actually helping out my buddy Zach, who he was my chef in New York, who has Lamora Pizzeria.
Yeah. I've never met those dudes, but it looks like great pie.
They're great,
Yeah.
and his pizza's great. And he's also just a super talented chef in general. I think like he's kind of been, as many pizza chefs get, like sort of boxed into this pizza world, but he has like over a decade of being a chef in pretty high level restaurants before that type of experience, and just loved making pizza and kind of came back to that. But I don't know. I always feel like he's one of these ones that like not enough people talk about to an extent because he's really talented, but they're getting a space pretty soon.
It's really well, like it's like I've been using the word intention a lot on this trip, but it's like with the content and like the just everything that is that brand is like really well curated.
Totally.
So it feels very Los Angeles.
Yeah.
To me.
I agree. And also they've also been really good about, especially I think for these people that do this sort of start with pop-ups and then try to figure out a way to get a space or not. They've done a really good job of to use a annoying Bay Area tech term, but pivoting all the time, you know, where they'd gotten so big into catering and that had become the by far biggest part of their revenue stream before. And then COVID hits and catering's just gone, and they switched to frozen and were able to get through COVID with frozen pizzas, which is huge and really helped what could have been pretty much the end of the story, you know? And then we're able to kind of get back to what they were doing, but it's hard. I mean, it's hard for business owners to do stuff like that. You think you can just change or figure it out, but so many people are kind of hard-headed and are just like, this is the thing we do, we're not going to change it. And sometimes you go up against forces that are just a lot bigger than that, you know?
Do you find it as crazy as I do that we put the best ingredients in our pizza, our dough, our cheese, toppings, fresh produce, and then we put pencil shavings on our tables called red chili flakes? What is a red chili flake? We found out about Flatiron premium pepper flakes from a customer who actually brought us some. We were putting it on every slice we ate. It was gold. We were like searching for it like addicts in the back, just like, ooh, where's the Flatiron? Where's the Flatiron? There is no going back. When you pop these peppers, you are gonna know. You can smell it, you can feel it, you can taste it. The 4-pepper blend, which is actually the blend we have on every table at Hot Tongue, definitely has a higher heat level, and I'm a heat guy, if you know what I'm saying. It has the arbol, the jalapeno, the ghost, and the habanero. It's spicy. They are liberating pizzerias from low-quality pepper flakes. Flatiron pepper, you are going to know the difference. In here, real peppers from Italy. Let's go. Head to flatironpepper.com right now. Use the code PIE2PIE at checkout. That's PIE, number 2, PIE at checkout. And any order over $25 is going to get you a bottle free of the sweet heat. Put that sweet heat in your cart, and any order over $25, that baby's gonna be free. Do not miss this chance to upgrade your pepper game. Head to flatironpepper.com right now and join the Pepper Flake revolution. The main issue of being a business owner is you don't know what's coming at you.
Totally.
Like you're
sitting there trying to prepare.
There's no preparing for things.
This is a thing that you would have never seen.
I mean, we're talking about COVID. You don't see that coming.
No.
I also I don't have a plan for fires.
Right.
I don't know what the fuck.
Totally.
Like, what do you do? Where?
Totally.
You never know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah, and not to mention here. I mean, thankfully it was small. Yeah, and like you guys have them too, but. We had 2 that were very small, like by earthquake standards, very small. But as the fires were going on, and there was a part of me was like, holy shit, like what the fuck would we do if they were close, like they were like in San Francisco basically. And if a 3.7 had been a 6 in the city, there would have been pretty bad damage, you know? Maybe not, it's not like 1906 devastating, but bad.
Yeah.
And hopefully it doesn't happen, but
you never know.
We just don't know.
But you never know. That's what good liability insurance is all about.
If that's still going to even
give it
to you.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey guys, insurance in California no longer exists. Good luck.
It pretty much is going away. Yeah. So we'll see.
Or if you want it, it's going to be $3 million.
Right. I mean, it's already outrageous.
Yeah.
Like what, even just insuring this for the build out. I was like, why do I have to pay that much for?
I know, just to have an empty, like a room
it's
that's
empty. Like I have 2 guys in here doing work every day. Like, why am I paying this much?
I never even understood that.
And I get it. I mean, it's like,
Well, just in case, like the guy painting falls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it's, we'll see.
Dude, I grew up in Seattle, and like it was always like, the big one's coming.
Right.
The big one's coming.
Yeah.
Hey, buckle up. The big one's coming.
Right.
We had like a pantry with a shit ton of water. We had like backpacks.
I need to do it, honestly.
We had all that shit.
Now
dude.
I'm like, especially after the fires, it's made me be like, okay, I really need to take this more seriously and get like at least a little go bag or something together,
at least, like,
you know?
Dude, yeah. It's also terrifying for your mom just to be like, just get ready. The
Right.
big one's
Exactly.
coming.
Yeah.
Okay, Mom, I'm 4 years old. You know, like,
but also, I mean, sure you had the drills in school too,
100%,
right?
yeah.
We had those. I was at Oakland public school, so we had earthquake drills, and then we also had the drive-by drills, which I think is not as common.
No, we did not do those, my friend. Out there in Shoreline, Washington. What's the drills? Is it
Get
still
down on the floor?
Yeah, is it still kind of the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much. Just like you're outside.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So, you got to prepare somehow, or
Be prepared.
but it is crazy that we're telling kids these things. I mean, I guess it's better to be prepared than not, but it is
know
also
what to do.
anxiety inducing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the more scary thing for me is I'm almost 40 and the big one still hasn't come.
It's still out there.
It's got to be on its way soon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Hey, I hear you. I know every time like I hear of one that's kind of like pretty big that's out in the ocean or somewhere, I'm like, that helped us, right? Like that took some of the pressure away.
That was it. That was the big one.
That was it.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I
on
think
wood.
that's how the science works.
I'm pretty
too.
sure you nailed it there. Yeah.
So that's what I tell myself when I go to sleep.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you can only be so prepared.
Yeah.
But have you been well prepared for this build out? Like understanding what that was going to entail, how long it was going to take, how much money it was going to be?
I mean, I don't know that anyone's ever fully. It's the same idea we were talking about, where I think you think you're prepared, and then other things come up all the time. To be honest, I feel like I was as prepared as one could be. Things have come up. I also have great people helping, and that helps a lot. And like, I am working with an architect, which I think a lot of people don't do because it's obviously more expensive. But just having her help both with the actual planning, but also just she knows people at the city and the Department of Buildings and Health Department, all these things like that, it helped a lot with the permitting process.
Was there any like expediting done or anything?
We didn't, because we actually didn't really need it. I mean, we knew people that could. We had some expediters we could have called if it had come to that, but we didn't.
Sick.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely there's been a lot more plumbing issues than I was sort of expecting.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I was expecting some of them. Like, I did come out here with plumbers beforehand, and they were like, it's probably going to be a lot of work. And I was like, but maybe we can not do all of it now. You know?
But maybe. But maybe not.
So that was partly on me.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Wishful thinking is good.
It was. I'm just trying to be an optimist.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's somewhere on the line of optimism and denial. But
that's where you got to be.
It's a spectrum.
100%. We're all on it.
Yeah.
You have to be as a restaurant owner.
Yeah, every day. So there's that, and then obviously like the stuff with the oven and the it would have been really nice to be able to just have more either power or gas to be able to just like pump more stuff out of here. But I do think one of the things that working in New York for a long time prepares you for is working in like the tiniest, shittiest kitchens that have nothing, and you still make really good food and figure it out. And so, I mean, as you've seen, like, space is huge. We have plenty of space. Space is not the problem.
I creep downstairs and dude, that could be a dough dungeon.
Well, that's the idea.
You could be fucking cranking.
That was part of why even all those other issues that came up, and I was like, this is costing me more than I wanted it to. It still felt worth it, because in the long run, I see it as that space. I mean, I don't even know if you saw the walk-in, but it's huge. Like, it's like an 11 by 6 walk-in.
Yeah.
And I could easily do dough production here for multiple locations at at a point in the future and get a smaller footprint somewhere else and not need that space. So it just felt like long-term, you know, it is obviously a business that I want to grow. And I mean, I guess that's not obvious, but for me, that is the goal. And I think I can do a lot out of this space. So it's kind of worth dealing with some of those headaches now and also just getting them out of the way up front. I think you're playing this game always with like, how much do I take care of now versus things you kick down the road and save the money on to get open. But it's really hard to deal with those things when you're open a lot of the time, especially like plumbing issues, you know, are not fun when you're open. And if you have to close and you're missing revenue with employees on, it's pretty scary, you know?
For everyone.
Yeah, for everyone. So there were some things that just felt like I got to deal with it now, you know?
Did you take on investors or do you have partners?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have investors. And that was an interesting process that I think it's helpful that I had a lot of people who have done similar things, whether it was like in the restaurant industry or here in the tech industry. And I'd seen people with, you know, start companies and had a lot of help with how you would structure that. Friends of mine who had done this in New York. I think looking back on it, I wish I raised a good amount of money. I probably could have restructured it a little bit and could have raised a little more and not given up any more equity. And now I can't go back on that. So we are where we are, which is fine. And I think it's still fine, but it's just construction is so outrageously expensive that it would be nice to have a little more of a cushion than I think I'm going to end up having. But you know, but I think that's a crazy part of it to me is like restaurants, the industry is like, there's not a good training program for people on how to do this. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like the old guard, new people, the younger, more of like our generation talks to each other and like helps each other, which is great. But so many of that old guard and the chefs that I used to work for, it was like tightly guarded information. It was like, it was honestly, they didn't want you to open a new place, you know? And so I feel like no one necessarily, I was able to get that information through people, especially people in other industries, and like take that and apply it to our industry. But I wish I'd had more training on it from other people in the past. Even, I mean, Tartine was great. I definitely learned a lot there just because I was a bigger company and I was working on more of like the corporate side by the end and learned a lot from that. But yeah, it'd be cool if there was more of like an actual training program, academy of whatever for people who are trying to open a restaurant that isn't like going to a business school type of like.
I mean, I feel like even like a 2-week program.
Exactly, that's the thing. It doesn't need to be.
This is a 2-week program. It's $1,500, and like we're gonna explain to you like either how you crowdsource, how you even like set up a plan to talk to your family, how you do go about it, investor, a 70-30 deal, an 80-20 deal, and how those flip, how those work. Because honestly, all the most information I know about investors, I've just been talking to people from this pod because I have no understanding from it. But
did you guys do it all self-funded?
And every time I tell somebody that, they're like, "You're stupid."
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously the trade-off is like, I don't know what your percentage is, but you probably own more of your own company than I do. You know what I mean? Which is
but it's like the foundation, like, or the hole of debt that I'm in almost seems debilitating.
Yeah, totally.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Once I get out of that, we're looking good. Yeah, but hopefully my lease isn't up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's a real like catch-22. I don't know that there's. Well, I think there is a way. There's probably a better path.
Some of us in the pizza industry might only know Slice from the online ordering app, which is still around, but Slice is doing a lot more these days. They're building tools now to support the independent pizzeria, and not just Slice users, but the independent pizzeria industry as a whole. They're telling the stories of pizza shop owners, creating resources, and ultimately products that help the smaller guy compete with the bigger chains. Slice now has an integrated POS system that's specifically designed for pizzerias. They're doing stuff like SEO, marketing, and full website build-outs, along with custom box pricing that you are going to get probably way lower than what you're paying for right now. They have a ton of resources for every owner. Buying power is a huge thing, especially when you're talking about big chains. And what Slice allows you to do is negotiate with suppliers and vendors to get a lower rate. That's what the Slice network allows. There's 24/7 tech support for customer care, and an extension of your staff is what they call it. This business can be lonely, as you all know if you listen to this podcast, but it doesn't have to be. With resources provided by Slice, you can be in this business for yourself, but not by yourself. The funny thing that not the funny thing, but the thing I hear too is people talk about yeah, I'm going to open up 1, 2, 3, and then I'm just going to sell it, Right. I'm going to sell it. Who are you going to fucking sell it? If no one's investing to you already, you're not going to just sell your 4 shops. Right. I think this is a dream too, that somehow has been implanted in some of us.
I think so. I also think that there's, to me, I think some of that, there's a lot of people that jump into restaurants without having a ton of experience in the restaurant world, And I think some of that is this story that's out there that people tell themselves or tell each other, but it's not what's happening within the industry. So I think a lot of the people who, I don't usually, the most of the restaurants that I know, other than obviously there's the fast casual chains that get sold that do great, but real restaurants, when they're getting sold, they're getting sold for parts most of the time because someone's trying to get out and they can't do it anymore. It wasn't a success story most of the time, And that's sad. That's not what I want it to be, but that's just the experience that I've seen and had,
100%.
So I don't know where these fairy tales are coming from.
I don't know either.
We got to find the.
But if anyone knows the end to that fairy tale, please call me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll go to that school too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's someone who's out there teaching these classes, and I haven't seen any ads for it yet, someone needs to. That's what I want in my. When I'm scrolling next time.
I hope when I open up Instagram, something pops up, but I know it won't because it ain't out there.
If you're listening.
Yeah. Please, and I know you are. Exactly. I know you are.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's just gonna be no useful ads. It's just gonna be more do you want to buy this new video game toy?
Yeah, or hymns.
Yeah.
It's dude, listen, I can still get a boner, okay? Yeah. I'm not there yet, and I do have hair. God damn it. Stop showing me the boner and hair pills.
I think they're if they know you're a man, you're gonna get the ads,
you
know?
Get the hymns.
And they trap you by you're not sure what the ad is for the first 5 seconds, cool. And now that you've looked at it, they're so he likes it, he wants it, he's on it, and that's all you get. Yeah.
I wanted to go back and comment because I think it's a very interesting thing that happens when you start writing checks. I don't think we were recording yet, but you said that it doesn't feel like real money.
Yeah.
And I kind of touched on this with Craig last night because I was saying that money is kind of fear. And that's why a lot of people never do what they dream.
Yeah.
Because they're scared to maybe go in debt or ask for money or all these things. But it's so crazy that once the funds come in and all these things happen, when you start writing a check that's that big, it's so unfamiliar to your life that it's just what is this even real?
Right. I mean, ironically, it's on the one hand, that's true for me writing checks to other people, but to myself right now, it doesn't look the same way.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
So there's that. But I would say, I mean, it's partly that. I also think there's just a weird thing about construction in general, where it's it's very expensive. We all know, you talk to everyone these days, it's construction is so expensive. Everyone knows that. It's this, it's out there in the world.
That is out there.
But when I get an invoice, it's not necessarily, I mean, it's sort of loosely itemized, but unlike most other things where when I pay for something, I see a receipt, I know exactly, or a line by line, I know what I'm paying for, I know what it is, I can see the thing, I can hold it.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily always the case with this, and so there's a lot of me just trusting that.
Oh, there's a lot of trust because you could get fucked.
Yeah.
There's words on there I don't even understand. Right. It's looking at my dental bill.
Exactly.
It's what is that?
Right.
Or it's pipe, and then it's $1,700.
Yeah, and you're
oh, fuck
what
it.
pipe did you buy?
No, I'm just damn, pipes are expensive.
Yeah.
For sure, dude.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah, right. So it is, but I think that's true that there's definitely an element of you know a thing needs to get done. You have this money that you got to do the thing. I guess this is what has to happen now.
I guess this is
just
how it goes.
This is what happens. This is what I do with that money, right? Is I have to put it into these things. That's not how you should be operating necessarily, but it's also sort of hard. I don't see another way. There isn't necessarily another option right now.
No, you like have to go through it to be able to do it better the next time, I guess, like everything else.
Right.
It's like riding a bike, man.
That's what I
Just
hope,
got to
I hope
get
so.
back on there, man. Take them training wheels off.
Yeah.
Throw down $250,000 for a pipe.
I mean, I feel like with this, I don't know that we even had the training wheels on in the first place. You know, it's just get on the bike, roll down the hill. Hopefully you stay up.
Sorry you didn't put on a helmet.
Exactly.
Now you're dead.
What is a helmet, actually?
You don't get one.
Yeah.
Sorry, no helmet, no insurance.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest part about the build out so far?
Truthfully, like waiting.
Yeah.
You know? And it's so funny that I say that because, I mean, I've opened like a lot of restaurants for other people in the past. So it's not like this is the first time where I've gone through this experience, but it's really different when you're doing it for someone else and you're still getting paid and it's kind of like you are antsy to get it open, but you're kind of like, it's sort of nice that I don't have to work like all the time or like I might have weekends off or whatever.
Yeah.
Now it's like this weird middle ground of, I like that my schedule is more flexible in some ways than it will be when we're open, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But on the other hand, there's an element of inflexibility because I have to kind of be available all the time. Like I can't necessarily just fuck off and go do whatever I want because there's days where it's like, I'll get a call and like, oh, wait, did you pick up that sink? And I'm like, I didn't know I had to pick up a sink, but I'll go right now, you know, or whatever it is. And you just need to be available. And those are the things that are saving me money. So it's like, I could make someone else do it, but I could do that.
I can save here. Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, really it feels like the waiting is the hardest part, even though I know that I should sort of try and appreciate the fact that
Enjoy
I'm not
it.
in here like 14 hours a day, again, 5, 6, 7, however many days a week it's going to be. But I also, the other irony of it to me is that like I know how to, as hard as restaurants are, but I've run like a lot of restaurants and I know how to I know what my day-to-day is with that. It's very familiar to me. I don't want to say it's easy, but I get that the ebb and flow of that day and how to deal with that level of stress and all of those things in some ways feels easier than this just because there's so much more unknown, you know?
Yeah, I would say when I was waiting for Hot Tongue, it was a very hard build out that we had. I would always say I want the problems that I know how to control.
Yeah.
Because every problem that came up with the build out, either I was too unfamiliar to understand really what was going on,
right,
or it was like so far out of my hands that all I could do is just get frustrated and angry, and it just you felt so helpless.
Yeah. I'm past the frustration and anger point, to be honest. I'm kind of just at the point where it's like, okay, you know, like that's what it is. It's not, I can't really do anything about it a lot of the time. And like you said, it feels out of my hands a lot of the time. So here we are, you know, but it doesn't make it easier to sit there waiting. You know?
And you've been able to do other things. You were in New York last week.
Yeah.
Was that last week?
I guess it's
What's
all,
that place?
it's all
Kids
blur,
NYC?
Yeah, Kid is the name of the restaurant.
That looked beautiful.
It's a cool, really cool space.
Restaurant.
Yeah, they did a great job with the space. It's super cool. Multi-level. They have a really sick downstairs, 2 different PDRs and like a bar that's just for those, and they'll seat those too. But upstairs, great. They got really cool video game machine that can play everything basically up to PS1. So it's just like every game you'd want to play, really. Yeah. And the food's great, honestly. The chef Ian, who's worked at a lot of great, he was like at Lodi and Ultra Paradiso before this, but ABC Kitchen and Cocina and EMP and lots of like fancy, great restaurants in New York. So he did really most of the menu. They wanted pizza and we wanted like specifically New York style pizza. The owners grew up there, wanted it to really remind them of like childhood slices, but in more of a individual format.
Are they like 14-inch pizzas? Like
13, 14, okay. Yeah. I mean, which to be honest, a lot of that is very similar to the concept of what I'm doing here in a lot of ways. So for me, it was kind of a nice, it felt consistent and not terribly difficult. I mean, the dough's very different than mine, I would say, but I was familiar enough with the concept that it didn't feel like a huge lift, you know?
So how was that? How do you work that? Do you do a lot of R&D here, or like, are you doing Zoom calls, or
It was a funny,
doing?
yeah, it was a funny experience. So I went out at like the end of, actually it was like basically right. I was like there for the election. I like flew in, spent that night there, and then spent the next 2 days with them, with the team there that hired me for this. We went to like 10 different pizza places in 2 days.
What was the best one? In those 10 places.
I mean, there's like different styles. I mean, I love Razza. Like Razza's amazing, and it was.
Are you and Dan tight?
I love Dan. Dan's great. Dan's a really funny guy, and we had the like bread connection too.
Yeah.
So before I left New York, we would talk more about bread those days actually than pizza, because that's more what I was doing when I was there towards the end anyway. But Razza's amazing. Had a great meal there as always, pretty much. But I mean, love the industry like always. They do a great job. This is the first time I went to the West Village one. I'd always been in Williamsburg and
Ledun Street.
Ledun Street.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, I've heard of them.
That one.
I've heard of them. If your sausage needs aren't hitting all the right notes, then let Maestro lead the way. Maestro has been working closely with pizzerias for decades. They produce sausages designed specifically with pizzerias in mind. And you can tell their Italian sausage crumbles look like they were handmade in your shop, and they will taste that way as well. With over 80 years in business, family owned and operated, the family is incredible, and so is their product. It's quality sausage with quality ingredients. Click the link in the show notes. A classical masterpiece awaits you. Back to the show.
Got to try Chrissy's for the first time, which was cool just because it's actually a super different style and really, really different than what I was expecting. Did you go while you were out there?
Line was pretty. Yeah.
Totally.
We were told like good luck. The weather was really nice. So
it was a nice day when I was there too, and we just got lucky. We went early, still waited for a while, but not terrible. And it was like a Tuesday or something. I don't know, whatever, Wednesday, pretty midweek, but it was still a pretty long line, you know? And they're not, I think it's like intentional. It feels like, I mean, the space is tiny. It's actually, I used to live like around the corner from there when I was there, and that was like my coffee shop. So I was sad to see they closed, but it's kind of cool that something else fun is in that space. But it's tough bigger pizzas are just hard to pump out in those ovens. Like you really can only do 2-ish per deck.
That's why that 16 works though in a nice
yeah, totally.
Pizza Master.
But anyway, it was good. I like that a lot, just as like a different. Again, it was pretty different.
In what way?
So they bake at a much lower temperature, which I was really surprised to see. There was like 572, I want to say, on their oven, and I was trying to figure that out. And then I was like, oh yeah, he started in his home oven, so honestly, he was probably only able to get to about that temp. Yeah. And instead of changing it, it's kind of like, you have a following, you designed the dough to work at that temperature. Yeah. Why change all of it once you open? Yeah. So that made more sense to me. And then then I was thinking through that, and the crust is like, it's a lot more like focaccia-y in texture in a lot of ways. Like it's thin. It's not, I don't mean that in the Sicilian sense, but even in like a thinner pie, it's got like a very, sort of like a thicker, crunchy crust versus like, how I think, like for me, my ideal sort of New York style has this like really thin, like very shattery crust. And this is more of like a focaccia crunch into it with like a little bit more of it's a bit thicker, the crust actually. Like for a sort of New York style, it's a bit thicker, has like a little more of like a soft pillowy thing. And so my take on that seems like they probably enrich it a fair amount more than a lot of traditional pizza dough recipes, which makes sense at that lower temperature that you'd get more like golden brown coloring, which they do. And you're kind of able to cook it longer without it like drying out and getting that's all. For me, I cook pizza in a home oven and it's typically kind of dry because you just like can't really, if you want to get color on it, because you just can't, it doesn't get hot enough, you know? So yeah, and then they oil it up a lot. It's definitely they put juicy on the sign, and it's juicy.
Love that. I love that word for a slice. I'd never heard it until Tommy from Brooklyn DOP was like, "I love a juicy slice," and I was like, how have I never heard somebody say juicy
I know. The first
slice?
time I heard it, it made me, honestly, I wasn't sure how I felt. It was another one of those things
like,
where
I've
I was
never
kind of
had,
like, at first I was like, I don't know if I like
They're
that
not
for
juicy.
that.
You like want like a crispy, cheesy slice.
Right.
And then I got home and I was like, guys, we need juicy slices.
Like, let's do.
I'm like, I was like, yo,
juicy?
I was like, I just started calling the slice. Like, dude, that's looking juicy.
Yeah.
Like, it's a juicy slice.
Yeah.
And they're still looking at me like, what the fuck,
Yeah,
dude?
I mean,
why are you here?
It's
Go do
one
a
of those
podcast.
things. I think until it clicks for you.
It clicked.
Yeah, it clicked. It clicked for me too. But
Yeah.
it didn't until I had it.
It was weird.
It took having a juicy slice to really get the juice.
Yeah,
you know?
the juice is loose.
Right. Yeah. Now it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got the full squeeze.
All right, so you guys went on the tour.
Went on the tour. Then I came back here, did a lot of testing here.
Well, out of that, did they kind of go, okay, we ate all these. This is kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah, that was the idea for me. I mean, honestly, the whole time, because some of these, like, they knew what they liked, but they didn't. Like, this is where I was working more with the owners on this, and they knew what they liked, but they aren't necessarily chefs or like pizza makers. So they don't necessarily have like the words for it, you know? And so it was helpful to eat together so that I could be like, this, like, what do you think about the sauce on this one? And they would be like, sometimes just be like, I like it, I don't like it. And I'd be like, do you like that it's a little bit more acidic and lighter? Or do you like that there's some oregano and that, you know, like it's a little sweeter? Yeah, you know, and just trying to kind of understand whether they wanted like a cooked sauce, a raw sauce, whether they wanted the dough to be like how thick or thin they liked their dough to be, how sweet and yeasty, or if they wanted a sourdough, or, you know, all those little details basically. And we kind of landed on what I sort of expect. I mean, they went into it being like, we kind of want L'Industrie. And I was like, okay, everyone wants L'Industrie.
Man, everybody wants the L'Industrie slice,
yeah,
dude.
That's it. So, but then it was kind of like, okay, we can go for that. But like, what other things are you looking for here? Because, you know, do you actually want exactly that? Or because then they would say like, we want that. But then we grew up with Sal and Carmine's. Like, okay, those are pretty different, to be honest.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
So like, where's the middle ground here, you know? And so that's why it was helpful to just like pick out what are the qualities that you like.
So then do you go back and you're like, all right, 5% semolina. We're going to do a little Polish, some sourdough, just like L'Industrie.
Well, that was the starting point.
Yeah.
I made like 6 or 7 different doughs to start, narrowed it down to the 3 that I thought were the most productive to show them, went back. We did the dough together. Then we went through a bunch of different tomatoes together. We went through a few different cheese options together, trying to just A/B test until we got to the thing we wanted, you know, which is cool. I don't know. I like having to sort of apply like a very loose scientific method to coming up with a pizza that's like your ideal pizza is kind of cool. Like,
it sounds super fun.
That was a fun process, you know? And back to what we were saying before is like, that is pretty cool about pizza consulting, and not getting to do that instead of just like you come up with your pizza and now I'm just gonna make the same pizza every day of my life for the rest of my life type of thing. It's different for sure.
In that process, were you thinking, how can I make this actually like user friendly, or were you kind of just like, I'm gonna, because you're coming from a pretty fucking professional background.
Right.
Yeah. So to get to Bready, because you want to make the process trainable, but you still don't want to cut any corners.
To be honest, I didn't even really entertain sourdough that seriously.
Yeah.
Like, they're mostly because it's just not something that I can train. Even a good chef, but a good chef that doesn't have a lot of bread experience is like, I can tell you, I can give you the information, but so much of it is like knowing what to see, what to feel, what to smell, like what to look for on a daily, multiple times a day. It's like, I'm feeding, even now when I have nothing to use it for on a regular basis, like I still feed my starter 2 or 3 times a day, every day. Like and I'm like, oh, it did this time. It did that. Like, I can tell what is happening. I can't really teach someone that in like a week, you know?
Of course.
So I really stuck with Polish and just a straight yeasted dough. And we went with a straight yeasted dough because to me, it was kind of like, I didn't end up I actually liked the texture better on the straight yeasted dough than on the one with the Polish. And it was just another thing. Was like, I don't really want to have to, now they have to deal with making sure they mix that every night before they leave, and that it's not over, and it's just like adds this extra layer of complexity, which I think for the right people, the right team, you could totally do that if you had more hands-on time to work with them. But I think given this circumstance where I knew it was going to be like a little bit of a mercenary, like get in, teach them some stuff, get out type of situation, I wanted to give them something that was as trainable, operational, replicable as possible without me being there every day.
Yeah. Would you now consider yourself a national pizza consultant?
You know, I don't know. I'm open to it. I don't think I've attained that level yet.
The national pizza consultant.
National, I don't know if I've quite gotten there, but
okay.
But I'm open to it. I maybe one or two more things, and maybe I'll start throwing it around.
I'm pretty sure it only takes one.
Maybe
you got on an airplane.
I did
I
get
think
on an airplane.
that's how it happened.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what Falco said.
Is that what he said?
He went overseas. That would make you an international pizza consultant. You have now got on a plane, gone somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, had you already consulted for money before?
Yeah, not on a pizza project.
Okay.
On like bread, bakery things, a few other things, but not on a pizza. This is the first pizza one.
On a national level?
On a national level.
You're national.
Yeah.
You're a national consultant.
Right. I did do the bread one was in New York too. So
come on.
Maybe there's something here.
I think there's something here.
Yeah. I did 2 pop-ups in Seoul last summer, and we made bagels together. So maybe I think
you've gone international.
I don't know. We'll see. But I'll have to start entertaining the idea a little bit more.
All right. Well, I'm here for it.
Okay.
Personally, how many times a day do you think it is appropriate to be feeding a sourdough starter?
It depends on what you're doing with it and when you're gonna use it.
Depending on your mix.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like if I'm mixing bread, I'm usually doing 3 times a day.
Okay.
That's my. I don't know how nerdy and technical you want to get.
Let's go fucking down the rabbit hole of nerd.
Great. I'm feeding it in the morning and night, the low inoculation at 100% hydration. So it's a liquid, wetter levain. And then the one I like to use for bread. So those ones go 8, 12 hours, roughly 12, let's call it. But the one that I actually use to mix, I do 150% inoculation. So those were like maybe a 20% inoculation. I like doing 150% inoculation, 110% hydration, pretty warm. And I let that go for like 3 hours. So it's like super active. It's like so ready to go.
Yeah.
It was basically taking a ready to go starter and just giving it a little more. It was like, let's just keep the party going.
Just gave it a little fucking little party favor.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
All right. Okay.
So you just give it that little extra feed, give it that something to get it out there, bring its confidence back up.
Yeah.
And then that's what I want
the
going
hymns,
into. That's exactly it. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah, exactly. You get that hymns ad did something to me apparently, but
it always comes back to boner pills to me. Exactly. For me, sorry. That's I see it so much.
Right. Yeah. We all do. So that's that third feed basically, and that's the one that I like going into the actual. I don't do that for pizza. I specifically do it for bread, but that's also because, at least in my pizza, I have levain pouliche and a little, very, very small amount of commercial yeast. So there's a lot going on, and it gets more help from the commercial yeast in there. But if I'm just doing like full sourdough bread,
what's how much is commercial yeast? It's a small percentage just to kind of give it a little.
I mean, mine it's like 0.003%.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because commercial yeast is so powerful that even that went the only reason I started doing that was I was just doing levain and pouliche, and then one day something happened. I probably went out the night before or something like that, forgot to mix enough starter. I had some, but I didn't have enough. And I had a pop-up. I couldn't wait.
Yeah.
So I was like, fuck it, a little extra commercial yeast in here. It's not going to hurt. No one's going to know the difference. And then I actually loved it the next day. We always talked about this at Tartine, but there's something, I don't know the science. I would love to find out the science behind it, but a little bit of commercial yeast, especially even spent, tired commercial yeast can help you get that like thinner, more shattery crust. Like straight sourdough to me often has a little bit tougher, chewier, more leathery crust, which is not what I want in pizza. It works in bread, but for pizza, that's not what I'm going for.
Yeah.
And so it just like, it had that. It was just like really lively. It was like easier to work with for people on the line and like for stretching. And I was just like, we're going forward with all three, you know? They all have different characteristics that I like. So it's got to all be in there.
You know what I say, right?
What do you say?
I say the magic is in the mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's the whole, how else would we have so many great things
That's
in the world?
It literally happens.
Yeah.
When you just, I'm pretty sure bread happened when somebody like fell asleep.
Right.
Or was that beer? It could have been both of those.
Yeah.
It was beer? Something like and a sourdough starter just got left, like some shit just got left out. They're like, whoa, this
all
shit
of a sudden,
rises?
it's like, wait, why does this taste good? And I feel a little something.
Yeah. This is nice. Bread and beer, dude.
Yeah.
That's like the world stands on.
100%.
It's the body of Christ, baby.
It's the original body of Christ. Get this wine shit out of here.
Get it out. Is the wine the body?
Wine's the blood.
Wine's the blood, baby. The bread is the
bread's
body.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll fucking, what is it? I'm a cannibal, baby. Give me all.
That's right.
Give me all the bread.
Yeah. I agree.
Is that a problem? Is somebody rocking their AC?
It's either that or it's like the restaurant just turned their hood on, but.
Oh, what are these all restaurants?
It's my landlord owns from like mine all the way around, and these are like all around, and there's like an interconnected weird little web going on here. But this is like the power. This garage has like all the power.
Scary.
For everybody.
Yeah, I mean, look at all those fucking wires, dude. That does not look up to code.
To me, that's San Francisco to me. In like a snapshot, it's just like that, you know.
Damn, your landlord must be ballin'.
You know, I think he has to be, but also he's been great. I have to say, I'm really lucky. Like he's been a good landlord, so good for him.
Yeah,
and
hell yeah,
good for me too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
I'm not like someone that's like, yo, fuck the rich, man. I want to be rich.
Right. I mean, yeah,
I want to be able to give my son a restaurant.
There's a few of them though that I would say fuck that.
Yeah, for sure. There's always gonna be some bad apples, okay?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's usually the loudest ones in the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want like the low key guy that like drives a Honda Fit, just like me, but his bank account has like 1,000 zeros.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Hey,
be like, man, that guy,
I will live that
Keanu
life.
Reeves, man, what's up, you know?
He used to come in, he's hilarious. He used to come into the Silver Lake Tartine a lot on his motorcycle, you know, get a bunch of pastries to go see his mom, bring to his mom. Love that,
Fucking
you know,
cool
super
guy.
nice to everybody, always would leave a great tip, like incredible, like best, you want some of those people, the people you look up to be, you know,
like,
they're not all going to be nice.
S. Preston.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah.
Have you seen Speed?
Yeah.
That movie fucking rocks.
It rules.
With
yeah.
Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is it? Pop quiz, hot shot.
Yeah.
Those 90 movies. There's
that
a bomb on the bus.
On the bus, exactly. Is that the one though? No, it was
Sandra
it
Bullock.
Easy Rider, but is that where he just did like one of the scenes he was on just like a fuckload of acid?
Wasn't that Blue Velvet?
Maybe it was Blue Velvet.
He was clean on Blue Velvet?
Clean.
Dude, when he just fucking
Yeah.
God, rest in peace, Lynch, dude.
Yeah, I know.
We need more of that.
Yeah, I know. That was, I mean, it's always funny when someone that you don't know, some famous person that you don't know dies and you like feel a way about it. But I feel like this week, especially maybe it was just like with everything at the fires and everything going on in LA too, I feel like that one really hit hard for a lot of people, you know?
Yeah.
And he's also like a great director that had some pretty crazy out there ideas and movies and shows
no one
and
knew
everything.
what anything was going on.
No.
I mean, no, it's like, I love the people were like, yeah, my favorite Lynch film is blah. I was like, dude, shut the fuck up. You don't know what it's about.
No.
You're literally repeating what Wikipedia says.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was talking about Mulholland Drive with someone the other, like a couple days ago, and like it is one of those ones where we were like, it's hard when it ends. You're kind of like, but what was it really about? And you're like, that's sort of the point.
Damn.
You know?
Like, yeah, that was sick, dog.
Yeah.
I really just liked Lost Highway a lot because of the soundtrack. I don't even really remember what it was about.
Totally. Or like we had, when we opened Mission Chinese in San Francisco, in New York, the bathroom was like a Twin Peaks themed bathroom. And it just had the intro song on repeat, which you would think would make me hate it. Like there were so many times where I was in that bathroom, like you're like cleaning up someone's vomit or something and just the same boom, boom, you know, and you're like, fuck. And I still love it. Yeah. I still hear that and I'm like, that's a nostalgic, great memory for me. So
was it like, whatever that's about. Was it like One-Eyed Jackson there or something?
There was like the picture of Sarah Palmer, like over the toilet, basically. Nice. And some candles, and I think we did the wallpaper. It was kind of like lumberjacky, but I don't think it was particularly. It was the music, really, is what set it off. That and the picture are what made you know that you were in a Twin Peaks bathroom. You know. Well,
I think the impact that we can all have on the world sometimes is limited. So when somebody gets to that level, and then you have a personal relationship with Twin Peaks, whether that was like whatever it is, or a movie or a soundtrack at that time, or like dude was super into transcendental meditation. Yeah, like he would give speeches, and like even his weather report in Los Angeles. I think that's where it's like you kind of get attached to those things. And so when that person's gone, we all have a problem like with our own mortality. So it's like, plus humans love anything to like fill the void, so we don't have to think about our own demise.
And especially there was so much going on in the last 2 weeks that was pretty shit. So it was
we're always looking for like, oh yeah, it's the worst way to start.
Exactly.
Fuck 2025.
Exactly.
Great fucking start. It's like, dude, how you live in Florida? How's it going down there? There's snow on the beach. Fuck this. What the fuck is going on? Mother Nature. Fuck you, man.
Yeah, we're gonna be saying that a lot more.
Yeah, I know the big one's coming.
The big one is coming. You know, I'm gonna say that has to get back into my.
Just start
phrases.
Saying, just out of nowhere, just start saying it like.
Just walk out of the walk-in one day when everyone's prepping, just by myself. Just the big one's coming, guys. Just walk away.
Just walk away, dude. Fat man walks alone, man.
Yeah, right.
So back to like California. Okay. You didn't intentionally move out there to open up Tartines.
Yeah, no.
How did that happen? Did Chad just call you on your cell phone?
No, not exactly.
Like, I mean,
there were a bunch of people when they were opening the first. I don't know if you remember when they opened the row. I wasn't there. I started right as the row was closing. I wasn't involved in the row, which is a good thing.
I was hoping you were part of that.
You wanted the dirt. You wanted the stories
because.
I know a lot of the
shit that was going on there. I was like, this is Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of bread. The fermentation and how big the fucking place was. I was like, this is huge. Insane. Chris Bianco's
with that said,
haunting the ground.
Like, well, now it's all his too, basically.
Yeah, so. now he is the row.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, the whole time he knew it was going to happen. Yeah, he's like, fuck you, Chad.
And maybe it was a good.
Yeah. It was a
maybe it was just
Chad.
a long play.
Yeah.
You know? And you know that his pizza's good down there. He seems to be doing well. I don't really know it, but he seems to be busy enough considering that place. It's like you could pay most people to go.
No, it's like it's fucking tough. I mean, luckily there's more and more shops that are opening up there that are cooler, but still, it's a destination. You have to,
for sure.
And anytime
and
things are inconvenient.
That was sort of the problem, was that they were sold on this idea by the developers that it was going to be, they called it the Grove of East LA.
That was not the Grove of East LA.
Insane concept.
No.
I mean, maybe one day, but and obviously COVID made it worse. Like the Arts District was kind of like doing its thing a little bit. I can see how you could think that maybe in 5 or 10 years, if everything keeps getting developed, that maybe we start to move in this direction a little bit more, but it's like you can't, that and the Grove are just, there's so many extra factors of where the row is that just make it hard to see it ever being the Grove, but also
it like runs through kind of like Skid Row
100%.
And then like the produce market, even when there's not produce in there, kind of smells like shit. Then it wasn't as approachable because even the shops that were in there were like very high end, and you know what's fucking missing? There was no fountain.
There's no fountain.
you put
how could you be the
start with
Grove
the
with no
fucking-
fountain? Doesn't the Grove has the little trolley too?
Start with
right?
the trolley
you
and a
need
fountain,
the trolley
okay?
and a fountain.
And
that
you need
needs
that
to be the
guy.
centerpiece, actually.
What's
of
the dude who
entire
owns the
space.
Americana and the Grove? Should be.
Is it Rick?
Yeah, you need
what's
that
you know
guy.
his name.
That guy's
he
cracked the
tried
code.
running.
He tried running. He tried to help
he
LA.
was
He's
close.
like, listen, I could bring the Grove to LA.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
No,
I don't know how that would have worked out, but okay. So
Well,
that was
we'll never know.
that was a major failure.
That did not work.
Okay.
That did not work.
They
at all.
closed that whole system down.
It opened and closed in like 4 months. You
That's
know,
so sad.
which is crazy. Yeah. So honestly, that meant for me starting there was like a pretty brutal time. Like we were substantially in the hole financially, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And investors were not super happy. So it took a while to sort of work our way out of it for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, Santa Monica helped a lot. That location is beautiful and it's big and it's busy all the time. And it was like, you know, that was a wild one. We had friends and family was like March 15th, 16th, something like that of 2020. Literally, it was like we had prepped, got everything ready. And then it was like, we had 2 days of friends and family, shutdown order.
Yeah, the 16th, I think, or 18th
Exactly.
is when...
It was like that. So whatever day it was,
Over.
but we had literally done the 2 days and then shutdown order was the next day. We were supposed to open that day.
Is that where you really like honed your bread skills?
For
Or
me, it
were-
was
yeah, were-
more. It was more New York. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, at Tartine, I was really focused more on the savory side. I would like help out with the bread team when they needed extra hands, but I was actually much more savory focused there. New York was where I did a lot with bread and had worked. I mean, I started when I started working. I left Mission Chinese and Mission Cantina, and I wanted to get into bread, so I went to Roberta's, and I got hired there to work in the bakery as one of the bread bakers, but I left to go. This was 2014, and I came here and did a stage at Tartine for a week or two at the time, just because it was like they offered, and I was like, it's hard to get. At that time, it was really hard to get a stage at Tartine. This was the old days when this was free labor, and I was happy to do it. You know,
Of course,
but-
100%, dude.
so anyway, I did that. And when I came back, my job was gone. So I was like,
What?
I'll work at the pizza kitchen. Then they needed a pizza cook. And I was like, I'll make pizza. Like, that sounds fun. I haven't done it. I'd like to make pizza.
Yeah.
And like, it's still working with dough. And I'll do that until something opens up in the bread room again, you know? So that's how I got into pizza and bread, basically. It was all Roberta's to an extent.
Roberta's is the most, I say it's the most influential pizzeria that's been open in the last 20 years because of so many heads that have come out of it
I think-
and then
yeah.
inspired other things.
Totally. I mean, I think we were talking about this with the people that I was just in New York with, where they were like, oh, do you know this person? I was like, yeah, I worked with them at Roberta's. And they'd be like, do you know this person? I was like, yeah, we worked at Roberta's. Or like, I went into demo for dinner one night, and that's like a bunch of Wild Air people basically. But like, one of the owners was, I worked with at Roberta's. And it's like, I didn't even realize it was his place. And I walked in and I was just going to try to sit at the bar by myself. And it's like, oh shit, we worked, you know, and it's, yeah, Roberta's, I feel like, I mean, partly just because it's been around for almost 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
But, and it's huge. I mean, there's a lot of employees there for one restaurant, and they have a bunch of different spaces. But I agree. I think it's hard to say that there's been a more influential single pizza restaurant. And also with specific things, like I know there's tons of beef over who did the hot honey pepperoni.
Do you know Angelo Womack?
Oh yeah, for sure. But Pauly G will always say it was they did it first,
Yeah.
and it's like
Pauly
like
G
a funny.
will say a lot of things.
That is correct. Yeah.
That's why he hasn't been on this podcast.
Right. yeah, understood. I think everyone feels roughly the same way.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, even
it
in
was a
like
funny.
because there's Roberta's in Los Angeles. And I
Right.
know it's not the same thing, but like the fact that they've come over here or to LA, and then they opened up in I think Sherman Oaks, somewhere in the valley too.
They
but
did-
like
yeah, I
people,
saw that,
it's touched people in California
Oh,
that
totally.
then have gone over and done stuff too.
So basically, my friend who's going to be my like CDC here who's been helping me with the pop-ups the whole way. We worked together at Tartine. He was up here at Tartine, but he learned to make pizza from another guy who was at Tartine here, who was at Roberta's in LA. and who helped me with a bunch of the pop-ups and is now over at Out of Sight with Eric. And it's just like fun. It's like the same thing where you're just like, it's Roberta's. The best part was I didn't really have to work that much on like stretching with them because I was like, we roughly, I do it a little bit different now, but it's largely Roberta's stretching and you know how to do it and I know how to do it. So I don't really have to spend any time on this, you know, which is great.
Eric told me, I think he's just working there until you open.
One guy. Oh, he told you.
Yeah.
So
He's like,
Anthony actually is helping. I forgot. He is helping them out too.
Yeah. Okay. Different guy. But no, he is there too. Yeah. There's a few guys right now that are basically working at other places until we open. Which is great. It's nice that you like kind of have that to lean on. So do you have like a solid crew that you are gonna align and morph in time, get ready, and then kind of hire everyone else out?
We pretty much have, I have like a GM and chef, but like chef that isn't me, that are already ready to go. This is one of the cool things about doing pop-ups in a way that I think is really awesome in terms of the whole like proof of concept idea. But I had a lot of random people that helped with pop-ups, but I had a really core group that were at almost every pop-up that were basically like, we're all in on Jules. Like we're waiting until you open, like literally work part-time jobs or temporary jobs they went into and were like, I will work for you for now. And I'm really good at my job and I'm going to kick ass for you for however long it is, but I'm going to leave.
That's very nice.
And it's great. And we'll see, maybe they won't, maybe they'll back out on me now, but I feel pretty good that I think it will.
You must be like a cool dude.
I don't know about that,
like a
but
nice
we
guy.
have a good time. We have a fun time working together. And I like to, I think one of the best things about pizza for me is like I worked in places that had stars. I worked with chefs that came from that old school background. I just don't, and there was a certain amount of value to it. Like there is some element of fear does motivate people a little bit, but at the same time, I just don't really, like, you don't have to be an asshole. You don't have to tell people mean, terrible things about themselves or about their lives. And
so you just do that sometimes.
Right. Just like a little bit. Every so often. That's management, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's just like every so often you
just
have to be a little
gaslighting.
scared that,
exactly,
like
you just turn on the gas just a little bit.
Every so often. Just to make sure they're on their toes.
Uh-huh.
But it's also, to me, it's also like, that's what's cool about pizza is, not to dumb it down, like I think pizza is actually arguably the best food in the whole world and can be super complex. And people who are really good at making pizza are incredible chefs.
Yeah.
But there's also this cool element that's like, it's pizza. Don't take your life too seriously. Like we should all just be having a fun time. We should be making great food and we don't have to hate coming to work every day.
Well, you know what I say, right?
What do you say?
Pizza is supposed to be fun. And if it's not,
I say that too.
If it's not, you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
Because there's only one thing you can do wrong when you're making pizza.
Yeah.
Not have fun.
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. And to me, it's like I genuinely, every day that we all come together, like we will look forward to like pop-ups together where we're like, yeah, we get to make pizza together today, And
is it true that pizza is really just an open-faced sandwich?
I think where you go wrong is the word sandwich. But I think that you do start to get into the philosophical question. Like to me, a sandwich is not flatbread with stuff on it, which is more what I would say pizza is. It's flatbread with stuff on it.
Well, then is it a taco or a pita?
No, because to me, a pita, I think we could start to say it's a pita or a wrap. I would say it's funny. And then this is like in a different direction, but Noma, they put out a book like, I don't know, a while ago now. And we hosted the like dinner for the book release in New York when I was at the Standard. And it was basically, I think it was called like, We All Eat the Same. And this was essentially what they were saying. It's like everyone eats meat with some vegetables wrapped in bread, basically. Mm-hmm. And I think if you really want to loosen the rules, yeah, they're all the same. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It is a carb that wraps your protein with some sauce and some vegetables potentially
Is
on there.
okay. Well, while we're on it, is
Yeah.
a hot dog a sandwich?
Right. I mean, this is the classic one.
This
I think.
is did the
big
chicken
one.
lay
See,
the egg
so
in the forest, or did the influencer even film it?
I would say a hot dog is a sandwich. And this is why. Because I'm going to go back to the origin of the hot dog in the United States. At Coney Island, German immigrants making what they called sausages on a roll. It was a roll. I would consider meat on a roll a sandwich. Hot dog is a sandwich.
Okay. I mean, seems like good logic to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sure, it's a little different now, but I think its origin story was as a sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, hold it, fold it, sauces, meat, sandwich. It's just this weird shaped meat.
But again, there's a lot of things that are weird shaped sandwich. Why does a sandwich have to be? Why do we have to have a specific shape for a sandwich?
Well, I guess
a sandwich.
What makes it a sandwich?
Right. Bread and meat.
Yeah.
With some sauce and some vegetables
Yeah.
in there, maybe.
Yeah, we all eat the same.
That's
what I've been saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's just one of those things I say. No, that's the book.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I got it somewhere.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of already
I got the
idea.
gist. I got the gist. Sick. All right.
To be
the Cliff
honest.
Notes. I've already got it. Well,
I don't know that you have to read it.
Well, I guess I'm coming after like the development of pizza, especially like whether it be in New York, Los Angeles,
Yeah.
anywhere. There's kind of this like artisanal understanding of kind of what's going on in people's dough,
Yeah.
whereas like maybe even 5 to 10 years ago, people were still kind of doing the same shit that you'd been doing for years,
Yeah,
which
for
was
sure.
filling up a Cambro, putting a tablespoon of yeast in there, some salt, and like mixing the shit out of it for 11 minutes.
Right.
But now, like, maybe it's a product of the pizza show, Tartine, more information,
Yeah.
and younger generation coming up, and like, there's very bready pizza recipes.
For sure, which is actually like sort of one of the weird things to me, where I do draw a little bit of a line, because not that I think either is bad, but I do, for me, with more of a New York style pizza, at least with like a round, flatter pizza, I think that there is a way you treat that dough that is different than bread, and I think a lot of people treat it like bread, and then it has a texture that is like bread, which is not necessarily what I want from it.
Can you explain that, like why that happens, or why you think that is happening, like the way they're treating it?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the answer is that a lot of so pizza dough recipes, typically, it mostly is on the fermentation side, and it should really be getting like a pretty short bulk fermentation and a longer proof. And I think a lot of people give it a pretty long bulk fermentation, essentially let it, especially with commercial yeasted doughs, like almost like let it double and then kind of punch it down and in much more of like the traditional bread recipe way, and then shape it and like divide and shape and proof. And it's not that it's like, that's not wrong. But to me, like what that does is there's more time to develop strength and gluten during that bulk fermentation. And especially if you add in sourdough, the acidity is going to also help to create stronger gluten. And so you get more of a rise, you get like better oven spring, which is great. And like, we all like to see that. But with that comes like a little bit toothier, chewier texture. And again, like that's not necessarily bad, but I really like when a pizza, like you bite into it and it almost like your teeth like go through and it melts away. Like for me, it's better. I always joke that like there are days where I've seen people have to do it with my pizza where it's like you see them like bite and have to like rip a little bit. And I'm like, I overmixed or I overbulked or I need to change up the flours, or like as soon as I see that, I'm like, that's not the dough that I wanted today, It's
must be kind of nice to be able to understand bread and dough on that level, because I think for what I was getting at too is like there's more information, but sometimes I'll use myself as an example because I don't have any training other than like the University of YouTube.
Yeah,
is that,
which is a great university.
It
honestly,
is.
I taught myself a lot of bread off of like Instagram videos,
Yeah.
like just watching other bakers make stuff and then be like, I want to do that, and then just like trying to do it on my own.
Yeah, But there, without the fundamentals of certain things, you can get into weird places in the internet, or you're trying to use too many techniques, and then you don't really understand what you're doing. Like, you have a small understanding of what you're doing, but that's when like the consistency part can come in. I mean, like, just to see bread tear in a certain way. I mean, now I think I can cook pretty good bread and make great pizza, but I don't have the vocabulary for it, so I sound like an idiot. I'll be like, oh man, it's fucking sick today, or like I'll just say, yo, this is shitty. Okay, I know that's dumb. I mean, it's yes or the other. You can notice those differences. I can be like, this is why, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I don't know, but I can fix it. Yeah.
But I mean, that's the most important thing, honestly. Like, more important than having the words. And the hard part is, I feel like I'm in a position where I am fortunate enough that I do have the vocabulary to describe it. It doesn't necessarily matter, because a lot of people I'm working with might not, and that's fine. But that's just like who I'm going to be working with a lot of the time, especially when I'm training people in Spanish. It's like, my Spanish is pretty good, but I'm not good in, like, I can tell you how to do everything. When I start getting into like the proteases breaking down protein and amylases breaking down starch into sugar, I can't explain that in Spanish, even though these are concepts that in a perfect world, the people making my dough for me, when I don't have to do it all myself, I would love to care enough, as much as I do, about what's going on in the dough. Yeah. But maybe that's too high of a bar. I think that there's people out there that do, but they're opening their own restaurants or doing their own bakeries or whatever it is,
Well, I mean, like, somebody said inoculation, and you said it today a couple weeks ago, and I just acted like I knew what the fuck they were talking about. And I use sourdough. Like, I've used pre-ferments, but I'm 39 years old, and I've never heard anyone say inoculation. And I was like, are you talking about a wet dream?
Were they?
I didn't. I mean, I wish I could go back, but no, they were talking about mixing leaven into their dough, and when to do that. But like, vocabulary. Well, language is a very important part of understanding each other and being able to communicate, whether it's dough or like your feelings. Yeah. So I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Yeah.
No, I think just got to keep working. That's all we're all just working on it every day,
Do you ever sing or talk to your dough?
I definitely talk to it. Sing, that's probably just me singing anyway. Yeah. And the dough happens to be there. And that's probably like, it might not even want to be there for that, but it has to be. So stuff,
Have you always spoke Spanish?
I spoke Spanish. Well, I mean, it was all like originally school Spanish. Yeah. That I then largely started to lose, and then like up through. So I was cooking in high school, and then I went to college, and then I decided I wanted to keep cooking. And by my senior year, I started working in restaurants again, and. So in that period when I wasn't taking Spanish in college really anymore, I definitely got pretty bad. And now it's just all kitchen Spanish, and it came back. But it's crazy how much working, like it's just about doing it all the time. And I'm way more comfortable, even though my grammar's shit and like, I'm way less polished now than I probably was when I was younger, but I was always scared to talk. And now I'm like, oh, I'll just talk to
It was
someone,
like a sick flex. I was like, damn, all right, dude. Yeah, more of that.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to be able to go into it every so often. And
100%.
I'm also, though, at the level, like when this opening in New York, I can do it, but I definitely have to be like trying, and it's hard, like almost. So the chef of Kid in New York speaks Spanish. He like grew up in Mexico. He's from New York, but he grew up in Mexico for a while. So he speaks Spanish fluently. So the whole kitchen speaks Spanish, and there's really no real reason to speak English. So everything we were doing was in Spanish the whole time, which is fine, and I can do it. But a week of training, like 14-hour training days, all in Spanish, is just like very tiring for I'm still at that point where it's.
Well, that's how you're supposed to do it, though. You just like win it. You might as well.
Yeah.
Been in Mexico.
It's. I mean, for sure. But it's.
Did your Spanish get better in that week?
Yeah, because their staff, they have a lot of Venezuelans, and their accent's pretty different. Like here. in California in general, but especially the Bay Area, it's like a lot more Central America, I would say. And so I'm really familiar with like Mexican, Guatemalan, Salvadoran, Spanish. New York, you get a lot more of the Caribbean, which is a really hard accent, much harder for me. And now it's a lot more Venezuela, which is a little bit different, but also easier than the Caribbean. The Caribbean for me is still the hardest. And they just have so much slang. When I was the standard, we had a lot of Dominicans in the kitchen who I loved, and those guys were super fun. But there's so many different words. It's a very different pronunciation, and it did help to be around it a lot. But sometimes I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, you got to speak English right now,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Or I'll try with you, but I don't know.
You
It's
try
not-
with me too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How has the Bay Area's pizza scene changed in like the last 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, I've only been back now for like a year and a half, basically. So I haven't even seen that entire period, but it's definitely gotten dramatically better in my opinion. But I still think it's funny because a lot of people have asked me like, why do you want to open a pizza restaurant? There's so much good pizza here. And I'm not saying there isn't, but there could be so much more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And especially since a lot of the good places, there's a lot of good Detroit style. Like you were talking with Mark today, and they do a great job. But I like Detroit style pizza. It's not my go-to for pizza personally, but it's good and it's super popular. And there's a lot of that here right now. But that is a very different product to me than what I'm making. Of
course.
Know? And there's a lot of like Del Popolo does a great like naturally leavened, much more Neapolitan, and there's a few places that do that. But again, that's not what I'm making either. So maybe for people who are less like in the pizza world in the way we are and like thinking about all the different styles, it just feels like there's a lot of pizza. But I still feel like there's a long way for us to go. But I mean, adding places like Out of Sight helps a lot with New York style. Adding, there's a lot of other people who've been doing pop-ups like me that I think are hopefully going to get their own spaces, and just bringing more of the kind of mix of like New York style with California ingredients and maybe a little bit of Neapolitan in there, but it's not exactly one thing. Like just bringing more of those. Flour and Water, their new place. I don't know if you talked to them at all, but
Everyone, everyone has brought them up, but we didn't get that interview.
yeah. They're great.
Maybe next time.
Honestly,
is it a guy named Elliot? Do you know him?
Yeah. So Elliot's at the pizzeria, and then like the two, Tom and Ryan are the two chefs, like kind of overarching for the whole company. And they're great. Honestly, I sort of expected when I got here and they were like just opening the pizzeria, and I started doing pop-ups, and I expected them to want to just shit on me and crush me basically, because they do something similar. It's not New York, it's not Neapolitan, but it's like somewhere in the middle. It's definitely closer to New York. The New York mentality, it's getting better, but a lot of the pizza people in New York, it's like very cutthroat, and there's a lot more like, I'm going to squash this person before they get a chance.
It's a little different out there.
That's more what I was used to in the pizza world, so I thought that's how they would treat me. And they've been super nice, very, promotional for Jules and for me, which is great. They had me do an event with them, this fundraiser dinner they did. Like they've just been like really kind, which I've been surprised by. But it's nice that they've been nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah,
it's nice when people are nice.
Yeah, and especially bigger group like that. Like they could not be.
Yeah.
No one would be that surprised if a big group that is one of the sort of like heavy hitters of San Francisco, if they were not nice, it wouldn't be that surprising.
What was the biggest reason you wanted to do this here? Did you ever think about doing this in New York?
I did. I mean, New York's tough, man. It's a tough city. I will say this, helping with Kid made me, New York is tough, but it is an interesting niche that they're opening in, because there's a lot of like, New York has like New York style slice places where you're getting like an 18, 20 inch pizza. And they have the Roberta's, Polly G's, Emily, like that whole vein of like smaller, more personal, but more Neapolitan. There's not a lot of New York style in more of a personal size thing, which is what they're doing, what Kid's doing, and what I'm doing. And so it was helping with that project. I was kind of like, I could do this here too, honestly. Like, it feels like I could do this here too. But part of it, I think, I mean, I grew up here, so like some of it was just wanting to be home and closer to my family and all of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got the whole California Bay Area, like the produce is so amazing stuff, which is true. Like it was exhausting in New York every year, this time of year, and you go to the farmer's market or something and all you see is like rutabagas and beets and cold storage apples and that's it. And you know, it's nice to not have to be able to get beautiful produce all year round. But I also do feel like there's still a need for more good pizza here, and it felt like there was a really good opportunity to bring some more good pizza to the Bay Area, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's a mix of all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap this up,
All right.
we like to play a little game.
Okay.
Do you like to play games?
I love games. Hit me with the game.
The game's called Over Under.
Okay.
Okay.
I've seen this game.
All right. Overrated, underrated, long fermentation.
Overrated.
Okay.
I mean, we tested out a bunch of different recipes for kid, and the one that I went with, and it is by far my favorite, and I had everyone in the restaurant this week try the single, like, one night fermentation proof, which the whole dough from start to finish was probably getting like maybe 30 hours, which is still not short, but compared to like a 2-day going 50-ish hours and a 3-day 70 whatever, and best one by far was the 1 day. And for your your production schedules and everything, it's just like easier to work with a 1 day dough. So I think it sort of depends on the dough and what you're going for and if there's sourdough in it or not. But to me, it is not it is not just like everyone's out here being like, we did the 72-hour, like it's
been in there for
better.
16
Yeah,
days.
exactly.
What the fuck,
Okay,
dude? It's
so you
just
mean that
starter
nasty
again.
ass alcohol that you have like suspended in some wheat is sounds tight. Yeah, you should definitely eat that. So yeah, no, I'm very overrated on the long fermentation.
Okay. Overrated, underrated, high hydration.
Tough because I have to give a caveated answer again. It's like I think for certain things it's great. For other things it's not necessary. Overall, I would say that I think it is overrated. Even though all of my bread is pretty high hydration, but I think it depends. Like this is a difference that I would say on the bagel thing we were talking about before. Like Chad and I always had this difference when we would talk about bagels because he loved like the Courage Apollo style, which I have only recently come around on, because he was like, it's more the principles of bread that I like. It's like higher hydration, baked hotter, blah, 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 and more of a bold bake. And I get all of that, but to me, it was always kind of like, but that's not a bagel, that's bread. And like a bagel's supposed to be dense and low hydration, and sort of the same idea a lot of times with pizza where I'm like, why are you making an 80% hydration dough? Like, are you just doing it because you think it sounds cool? But is your dough ever going to get crispy? Or like, do you have to, you know what I mean? Like, I want a crispy dough. I don't need, there's one guy, not to like name names, but there's this one that's always doing like 100% hydration
Drop
pizza
the name,
dough.
dude.
I'm not going to do it, but and it's like, I don't want 100% hydration pizza dough. That's just, I'm just eating mushy. Even if it gets fully cooked, it might be, I'm not saying it's not fully cooked. It's just like, that's like not pizza. That's a soft, pillowy thing with some cheese on it. I mean, we talked about, it is pizza. It's not the pizza I want.
Yes. Fair enough.
I got overall overrated.
Okay. Overrated, underrated, 20-inch pies.
Honestly, underrated for me. I love a 20-inch pie. I think the problem for a restaurant is like when you get into the economics of it, it doesn't make sense. People nowadays to charge what you have to charge for that, and you just can't sell a lot of them. It's just hard. But I love like a slice. Like I want a real slice. I wanted to do bigger pizzas. I just know it's not the path for me to make any money, and I also want to make money. But underrated, especially in outside of New York. You don't see enough of them.
Okay.
Underrated.
Overrated, underrated, sourdough.
I thought this one might come up. I would have said underrated for a long time. A part of me still really wants to, but I think it's another thing that has started to get used too much without people really understanding why they're using it. And so it's getting overrated just because I think there is something impressive about doing something that's fully naturally leavened, but commercial yeast has a lot of its own like wonderful properties and flavors, and it's like, why do we like vilify I feel like part of the sourdough thing has been to make commercial yeast out to be this terrible thing that's like less than.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, they're both good for different things. And sometimes they're great together. They like to play. So why do we have to keep them separate all the time and treat them like they're not friends?
Yeah, they're homies.
They're homies. They've been around a lot longer than we have.
They're the same. They're brothers. One's wild.
Exactly.
The wild, crazy, freaky one, you know?
Yeah, what's not? And the other one's like a little more buttoned up and reliable. And you, but it's kind of nice to have both of them around, you know?
It's like,
and sometimes you want to go have fun with the wild one. Sometimes you need old steady, you know? And like, I want both of them in my life. So
I'm going to ask this one. Okay, overrated, underrated, natural wine.
For me, overrated.
Yeah?
Overrated, yeah. I mean, I like it. I'm fine with it. I like it. There's great natural wine out there. I think it's a similar thing that we've like basically thrown out really good wine that is maybe, especially since a lot of the time, like a lot of the true purist 0.0 people are like, it can't even be 5 parts per million sulfur. And it's like, well, why not? That's below the threshold. It can still technically be called natural wine. I just don't want my bottles exploding, or I don't want to buy a case for my restaurant and throw out 6 of the 12 bottles because they're undrinkable, you know? And that shit happens with natural wine a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think it's great. I think there's a place for it, but I'm also kind of over the like entirely natural wine list. We're going to have natural wine. We're going to have not natural wine.
Old wine is what we call it.
Yeah.
My wife says this tastes old.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of natural wine. I fuck with natural wine. I think natural wine is like the sourdough of the wine.
100%.
You know, it's organic, biodynamic. It's a little freaky, a little funky, and then you have old. But they can play together.
I like them both.
They can play together.
And my point, I think you're exactly right about it being, I say the same thing. It is the sourdough for sure. But what I actually use this analogy because I think the problem is there are a lot of natural winemakers, especially the like European natural winemakers who've been doing, it's like just the way that they've happened to make wine, like on their vineyard or estate in Italy for like 100 years or whatever, and it's just like the way they've done it and the way they know, just like a good, really well-trained baker can like read the dough on any, or even just the levain on any given day and make adjustments and all these changes. And I think there's that, and then they make wines that taste beautiful and are just as, and taste like an old wine, and then but they just happen to be natural. And then there's natural ones that are intentionally super funky. And then there's ones that are unintentionally super funky. And sometimes it's like, because I think the person didn't necessarily control a lot of those elements the way that like this super skilled sourdough baker might have known how to do it. And so I think there's a lot of similarities. It's why I like them both sourdough but I think that there has been this shift that was really far towards both natural wine and sourdough, and I like them both. I want us to be in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, but they're both overrated.
For me, overrated. Not that I don't like them.
Yes,
just overrated.
Yeah. All right. Overrated, underrated lists.
Underrated. I don't know. I'm a list guy. I work off a list all the time. That's what you're asking about?
No, I'm talking about lists are great. Yeah. Those kind of lists. I'm talking about hype.
Oh,
overrated, underrated lists.
I mean, overrated because not that I don't want to be on them and like it's good for our business, but it's not. What I have found, even just doing pop-ups, like we've been very fortunate and gotten a lot of good press and been on lists and things like that as a pop-up, which is amazing. And I'm very, very thankful for that. But it's hard for the business sometimes because you go through these crazy swings of like, we were on this list and now we're going to be incredibly busy for the next 2 weeks. and that's great, but I don't really have the staff for it. But I can't hire more because I know that in like 2 weeks now we're going to be back to kind of regular, and people are going to be on to whatever the next list is, and so you just have to ride it out, and it's kind of painful. And sometimes you don't give the best experience to the people who are coming because they read this, that you were on this list. And it's just too bad because I think it's just such a hard, brutal industry for everyone. And it's really hard to, it would be nice if there, I know we can't like all play, it can't just be like happy, perfect, everybody's the best gold star for everyone, but it's too bad that like there isn't some way of making it a little easier for everyone instead of a lot of the lists kind of keep hyping the same people. And if they're gonna hype Jules, like I'm happy, that's a good thing, but it's hard that you can't, it's just hard for a lot of us out here, you know?
Yeah.
And so unfortunately the lists don't always make that equitable.
Yeah.
And the life's not fair, so maybe it's not supposed to be equitable.
Yeah,
but
fuck it.
Yeah.
All right, last one,
Okay.
and sometimes the most important one for me, overrated, underrated, ranch.
At this point, I would say underrated.
Surprising. I thought I was
thought
getting.
I was gonna be
I
an
thought I was
overrated
getting
person.
overrated
Yeah,
from
yeah.
you.
I was. There was a. I mean, in New York, I was kind of like more of the purist. Like, you don't put a bunch of like you put certain things on a pizza. Menu stays pretty tight. No ranch. You know, I was definitely more that type. And then
you grew up.
I grew up. My taste buds expanded. I developed my palate.
Got that white gold, homie.
Exactly. And I will say, I make a ranch, you know, I do that. Like I make a homemade ranch, and like, it's obviously that's adding a little fanciness. That's not, you know, I'm down with just straight like Hidden Valley.
Fuck
absolutely. Yeah. But I'll make it. I'll put the little touch on it for sure. But I'm down for it. And I, the one that I've been cooking with a lot more recently, I have to say too, this is a derivative of ranch, but I have been really loving using the ranch powder as a seasoning for other things. I think it started with that. There was like some recipe that from like some lady in Mississippi that was in the New York Times that just puts like a ranch packet and some pepperoncini and like a beef chuck in a slow cooker and doesn't even do anything to it. And it just turns into like magic. And now I'm like, I'm going to put ranch powder. I mean, it's perfect. It's like onion, garlic, and MSG. So it's just like umami with salt and vinegar. What else do you want? It's like literally all the things. And then there's some herbs in there just to kind of like liven it up a little bit.
Run me a bath, baby. You know
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm getting a little excited just talking about it. You know, see that fucking Hims ad's gonna get us again. You know.
All right, we're doing. I'm glad that was in the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Yeah.
Hims, if you're listening, can I get a sponsorship, dude? Fuck yeah, dude. My life changed once I started taking Hims. You see this hair? And I got a boner right now. Yeah. All right, last one, because this is a bonus one.
Yeah, okay.
Overrated, underrated Hims. No, I'm just joking. Overrated, underrated New Haven style pizza.
New Haven style, yeah. It's the trendy, the darling of the world these days.
The pizza capital of the world, man.
So they say. You know, I like it a lot. I think, and to be fair, I haven't had enough of it. Like I've only been to Sally's. And so I need to get more of it in my life to feel like I can answer this truly.
Okay.
But what I will say is a lot of the places that are doing it now, I'm like a little bit unclear on what they're doing that's making it. It doesn't look like what I assume is New Haven style, but then they're like calling it New Haven, and it looks great. Like some of the places, I mean, the New Haven style in London, or not, you know, in England, they're not really in London, but like Gracie's and Vincenzo's and all this look insane. They look so good.
Yeah.
But a lot of places seem to be doing a version that kind of just looks like New York style, but maybe with like a thinner crust, and they char it a little bit more. But it's not like a wetter dough necessarily. It's not baked in a coal oven. Like some of the characteristics that I feel like are important.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Overall, fuck it, underrated. I don't know. I like it.
Sick.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dope. Well, dude, thanks for letting us come here.
Yeah, thanks for
see the
sitting
spot.
in this little patio.
It's dope.
with
We're
the-
getting smoked out to some
exactly.
bomb-ass food. I don't know.
Smells
What is that? Is
good.
that some
I don't
burgers
know.
or something?
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a cheesesteak place over there. Maybe them. I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah.
It's coming down.
It's working.
Yeah,
It's
it's
working.
working for me.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This
Yeah.
is fun.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much.